Welcome to this explainer. If you've noticed that as the days get longer in the spring or as the weather shifts in the autumn, your usually sweet, affectionate feathered friend suddenly turns into a lunging, screaming, biting machine, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down the actual science of hormonal aggression, decode their body language, and give you a concrete, step-by-step action plan to bring peace back to your flock.
So, why the sudden change? Let's dive into the exact question that absolutely plagues so many well meaning bird owners when the seasons start to shift. It's honestly the most common and arguably the most heartbreaking issue for parrot caretakers. I mean, one day you're happily snuggling, right? And literally the next day they're lunging at your fingers, attacking your spouse, and fiercely guarding the food bowl. It feels super personal, it feels like a betrayal, but as we're going to see throughout this explainer, it is absolutely not personal.
Right off the bat, we need to validate your frustration here. Because as this quote perfectly captures, you are not a bad owner, and you're certainly not alone in dealing with this. The arrival of spring and autumn triggers these deep, ancient biological alarms in your bird's brain. To them, it's not a behavioral issue at all. It's an overpowering, undeniable drive to find a mate, secure a nest, and protect their territory from all perceived threats, which, unfortunately, often means you or your family members.
It is so vital to understand that your bird isn't being malicious. They aren't being bad. What's happening is a massive surge of reproductive hormones, specifically testosterone and estrogen, is quite literally rewiring their brain chemistry. Just imagine being completely flooded with an overwhelming instinctual drive to reproduce, but having absolutely no natural outlet for it. That intense sexual frustration has to go somewhere. And unfortunately, it usually manifests as what we call displaced aggression, essentially biting the closest available target.
Now, the core of this whole issue really lies in the stark contrast between a wild parrot's life and the life of our pets. In the wild, parrots only breed during specific, super short seasons when food is crazy abundant and the climate is just perfect. The rest of the year, they're physically turned off just to survive harsh conditions. But in our homes, well, we provide constant abundance. We give them warm, cozy temperatures, high-fat seed and nut diets every single day, and artificial light late into the night. Without meaning to, we're accidentally tricking their bodies into a state of permanent reproductive arousal.
Okay, so most bites actually happen because subtle warnings are completely ignored.
The crucial point here is learning to read these body language cues to respect their boundaries before a bite ever happens. Parrots rarely just bite out of nowhere. We just kind of aren't listening. If you see the pupils of their eyes rapidly contracting and expanding, which is known as eye pinning, or if they fan their tail feathers all the way out, they are in a state of extreme arousal. A raised crest in cockatoos or that flushed, blushing face in macaws, those are giant, flashing neon signs screaming, "Back off, I am overwhelmed." If you push past these signals, you're essentially forcing them to bite.
This brings us to a super surprising, kind of hidden cause of aggression. It's how we might accidentally be sending mating signals to our incredibly monogamous flock-bonded birds. In the wild, parrots choose one mate and they bond for life. So when you interact with your parrot, in their eyes, you're either acting as a flock member or you're acting as a mate. And the heartbreaking truth is, a lot of owners are unknowingly sending intense sexual signals to their birds just through how they show affection.
So here's the absolute golden rule. Avoid petting their back, wings, or vent completely. Just stick to the head and neck only. In the parrot world, preening the head and neck is just friendly, social flock behavior. But touching a parrot anywhere else, stroking their back, rubbing under their wings, petting near their tail, that is strictly reserved for their sexual partner. When you touch them there, you are literally telling them, "I am your mate, and we're going to have babies." And when you inevitably fail to deliver on that biological promise, the bird gets wildly frustrated and jealous. And that leads directly to biting you or attacking anyone else who even comes near you. It's also fascinating and kind of wild how everyday household items that we just view as harmless toys or cozy beds are actually perceived by your bird as prime nesting sites. To a hormonal parrot, a cardboard box, a shadowy closet, or even those fuzzy sleeping tents you buy at the pet store look exactly like a hollow tree cavity in the wild. Once they claim one of these dark, enclosed spaces as their nest, their immediate instinct is to defend it fiercely with their beak. To get those hormones down, you absolutely must remove access to these spaces immediately. Let's dive into how we can actually rethink the physical environment to short-circuit these intense biological urges. The cage is supposed to be their safe space, right? But during hormone season, it can turn into this heavily guarded fortress.
If a bird feels that their cage is their permanent, unchangeable breeding territory, they will attack any hand that dares to enter it. We have to disrupt that feeling of comfortable stagnation. And we do that by regularly changing their cage layout and moving room contents around. It helps break up those deeply ingrained nesting instincts and reduces their need to fiercely defend a specific territory. Moving their perches, rotating their toys, or even shifting the entire cage to a different wall can be incredibly effective. Why? Well, because changing their cage layout around actually activates their prey instincts. It makes them feel just slightly less secure and a bit more vigilant about their surroundings, which can sometimes literally shock them right out of the breeding cycle. When they're focused on assessing a brand new environment, they aren't focused on nesting.
Okay, now for the most actionable, empowering solutions you can implement literally today to bring peace back to your home. We've talked a lot about the why, so let's really focus heavily on the how. Look, you can't reason with a hormonal parrot, but you can manipulate their environment to naturally bring their hormone levels back down to a manageable, friendly baseline.
First off, enforcing a strict 12 to 14 hours of uninterrupted, completely dark sleep is absolutely vital. If they're awake for 14 hours a day under artificial lights, their bodies think it's the peak of spring breeding season. You have to simulate the short days of winter. Also, avoid feeding them warm, mushy foods, and absolutely never share food straight from your mouth. In the bird world, sharing warm, mushy food is literally how mates feed each other through regurgitation. By fixing their sleep schedule and removing these dietary and behavioral triggers, you dramatically signal their bodies to just wind down that hormone production.
Plus, keeping their minds busy through foraging provides this essential, super healthy distraction from those overwhelming hormonal drives. Take foraging, for example. Many parrots, like African greys, practice something called contra-freeloading, which basically means they actually prefer to work for and uncover their food by destroying things, rather than just eating it out of a boring bowl. Giving them destructible foraging toys forces them to burn off that excess nervous hormonal energy on chewing wood and paper rather than, biting your fingers.
Remember, this aggressive phase is entirely natural, and more importantly, it is temporary. With some patience and the right adjustments, your sweet bird will return. Which leaves us with one vital question. What will you adjust in their environment today? Whether it's enforcing strict bedtimes, removing a nesting box, or strictly practicing the head and neck only rule, what will you do to help your feathered friends settle back into their sweet self? Take charge of their environment and you'll take back your peaceful flock.